All right, thanks for joining us here live on YouTube. Believe in Bills, presented by FanDuel in the wake of a 26-7 Buffalo Bills victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Down in Pittsburgh, where Sal Maiorana, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, joins us from. Been in that press box, obviously, a good number of times over the years. I can't figure out where the hell are you?
I'm in a booth. It's the I'm not sure what booth it is, but I can't turn the thing around to show you the stadium behind me because there's no way to do it. So you're stuck with the wall and whatever's behind me here. But all you need is my face, right, Adam?
That's
my
it.
Happy, smiling face today.
Right.
After a dominant Bills 26-7 victory. Hell of a performance by the Bills.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, given everything that football team's been through and the inconsistencies, and they're by no means out of the woods, right? This game doesn't suggest their problems are solved. No. But what it does do is it impressed the hell out of me in the sense that they knew, especially with both of the starting tackles out. I mean, they knew what they were up against. They knew what they had to do. They knew what they had to limit in terms of the Pittsburgh pass rush. They knew this team was vulnerable against the run. And the way in which they executed it with the attitude with which they did, smash mouth on the road to the tune of a record number, 249 rushing yards in the game, most by an opponent in that stadium, and the most since, 1975, back at Three Rivers. That's impressive. All the way was. Around.
Yeah, that game, that 1975 game, in one of my Bills books, game of my life, that book, this was the game Joe DeLamalura picked, the Hall of Famer, that 200 and whatever it was, how many rushing yards, OJ had 227 that day, and they beat the Steelers, who were the defending Super Bowl champs. And he says it's a game I'll never forget. We kicked their ass. Remember, they had just beaten the Bills in the playoffs the year before too, so and totally shut down OJ. So yeah, best performance. I don't think there was any way we saw this happening with Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown not on the field. Alec Anderson and Ron. And the Bills were not afraid to run the ball. They very easily could have turned this into, hey, Josh Allen, put us on your back, Steelers defense. And it was, DJ Watt called it an ass kicking. And that's exactly what it was, man. It was an ass kicking.
Yeah. To go into that town where that team has the reputation for kicking a lot of ass and kick theirs with what was at stake. I mean, I think it's a good sign. It gets this team turned in the direction that it needs to as it heads down the stretch here. Still in the 7th spot. Again, we're live here on YouTube. This is Believe in Bills. Buffalo 26, Pittsburgh 7. Adam Benigni, WGRZ TV. Sal Maiorana, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. And we invite you, there's 20 of you, and we hope to see that number grow with your questions, comments as we continue here for the next 20 minutes or so. In the wake of this one. We knew that we had said in our preview show on Friday that they really needed to get James Cook going in this game in order to protect. Yeah, look, Allen wasn't even sacked. Allen wasn't sacked once in this thing, which is, again, it was a very simple, straightforward game plan. There was nothing tricky from Joe Brady in this one. I mean, Tony Romo was outlining the fact they basically were running, in essence, 2 run plays, right? The same 2 plays, and they won the battles and obviously won the war. James Cook, 32 carries, 144 yards in the game. It was the simplicity and the dominance with which they did it, I think, that was the most impressive aspect of this.
Yeah, and that's another thing that TJ Watt said is, they're watching film of this Bills offense all week, and they kept seeing the same play over and over and over. And they're thinking, we know how to stop this. We're going to be able to – there's no diversity in this offense, which is not a good thing. I mean, Joe Brady, he's been under fire recently. And I thought today, for as much success as they had, it was certainly frustrating in the first half. They weren't getting anything done in the first half. There were some good runs, but Allen could not pass the ball. He had 46 yards passing at halftime on 5 possessions. They were doing nothing in the passing game. But Watts said, yeah, we saw these same plays, and they still kicked our ass. The Bills, what they do well, they stuck with it, and the Steelers never had an answer to stop them, which was pretty surprising. Look, this Pittsburgh defense is not as good as past Steeler defenses have been, and they'll come right out and tell you. Tomlin will tell you that too. But it was still a team that has some really good players on that side of the ball. And when they have a good day, they can really be a suffocating defense. Well, they didn't today, man. The Bills just crushed them. And again, it was so impressive that, Van der Mark and Alec Anderson, who hasn't played right tackle since, I think, going back to college, were able to step in. Now, Anderson had the 2 false starts in the first half, and both of those kind of killed Bills' possessions. But he got his shit together, and, he is a tough kid. That's his calling card, is being tough and aggressive. Mm-hmm. And in the run game, he just loves to get after people. And that's exactly what he did. He was faced with T.J. Watt a lot in this game because they don't really flip sides. Herbig stays on the right, and Watt's pretty much coming from the left. And Anderson, for the most part, did a great job. It was impressive.
Absolutely. What wasn't impressive were the turnovers in the first half, right? And Allen alluded to that. Yeah. Both in terms of his interception and the James Cook fumble, which had a lot of careless aspects to it. They still continue to turn the football. Listen, I'm not taking anything away from how they kind of got things going in the right direction and what they did today. I mean, full credit to the Buffalo Bills. But like I said, this game, it doesn't solve all their problems, but it does help to establish an aspect of their identity moving forward, I guess, as they head down the stretch here. That toughness and what they were able to overcome at a time when they got their asses kicked down in Houston and needed that shot in the arm, I think.
Yeah. For those of you who are watching, we're really battling some tough internet. I don't know what the problem is, but I apologize. It's probably on my end. So we're going to try to get through this. You mentioned that there's still problems, Adam. There are. This offense is – there's not going to be many days, although they have had 3 200-yard rushing games. So I guess I can't say that with a whole lot of confidence. But there's not going to be too many games where they're going to possess the ball for 42 minutes and run it down the other team's throat all afternoon and evening like they did today. They've got to get this passing game figured out. And it's just – right now, it's comically bad how bad the passing game is. I asked Alan that direct question. I said, look, not to nitpick here, but it's kind of what I do. But I said, you didn't need the passing game today, but there's still issues. And he said, look, this defense, the way they play, our game plan was going in. We were going to throw the ball underneath. But here's my problem with that statement, Adam. Every game plan this team has right now is throwing the ball underneath. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. They don't throw the ball longer than 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage almost ever. So it was fine today. They got away with it. But, Keon Coleman got back on the field. He scored a touchdown. Great. It was more Josh Allen making a great play than it was Keon Coleman doing anything on that. Brandon Cooks was targeted one time. First possession of the game. I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Never threw the ball his way again. I counted it up, Adam, the wide receivers, caught 5 passes for 32 yards. The 5 wide receivers. And again, I'll say it again, they didn't need to pass today. But you have to be able to throw the ball in the NFL. And right now, at least for these last 2 games for sure, the Bills have been almost inept when it comes to passing. They got to get it figured out, man, because they're playing the Bengals next week. The Bengals are going to score. They're going to score. Joe Burrow looked great in his return the other night. That's a team that will put points up. The Bills aren't going to get away with running for only 250 yards and not throwing the ball. They got to throw the ball better.
Yeah, I was just looking at those numbers like you just said. Cooks 1 catch, 13 yards. Jackson Haas 1 for 10 yards. Keon Coleman 2 for 9. Excuse me. Gabe Davis 1 for 5. Khalil Shakir 1 for 5 yards. Your 3 leading receivers, 2 of the 3 were running backs. Cook 3 receptions, 33 yards. Knox 3 receptions for 28 yards. Ty Johnson 3 for 20. And based on the running game today, you can kind of wear that like a badge of honor, but that's not going to get it done as they head down the stretch here to trying to secure a playoff spot and into the postseason, obviously. So it's a point extraordinarily well taken on that. Let's get to a comment here or two if we can. From Bob R1, how soon we forget the Cincy playoff game and how many backups they had along their O-line, but tore up the Bills. Brady's offensive limitations is built to go, or offense with its limitations is built to go against a team like Pitt. Okay, but I mean, I'll give Brady credit for kind of sticking to the plan today. I mean, it wasn't broke. They got it going in the second half, but they ran the ball extraordinarily well in the first half as well. But, didn't try and get cute. It was working well. It was dominant and stayed with it. And, I'll reference that Cincy playoff game only to the extent that I'm concerned like you are, because I think, back then and probably now, it's just a really tough matchup for Buffalo. We'll talk about that later in the week and a little bit later on in this show. All right, let's pass the hat around. Oh, the Hammer is talking about your internet connection. Hey, you are at the mercy of the press box you're in. It's just as simple as that. We've all battled that through the years. Bills are now in full playoff mode. Josh has a new look on his face today. By the way, he another record is eclipsed. 76th rushing touchdown, surpassing Cam Newton for the most all time. The push by Torrance on that play was awesome.
Yeah.
And what else can you say about Josh Allen? I mean, he needs to be better, and he'll tell you that.
And he did.
But there was a toughness element to the game today that I don't think that you can overstate.
One of the plays that they were talking about after the game was the cheap shot he took from Patrick Queen that was not called a penalty. Should have been. I mean, it was probably the easiest call the officials could have made all night. They didn't make it for some reason. Crazy. That play, a lot of the guys in the locker room and even McDermott to an extent said that kind of woke the Bills up. You don't want that to be the case, but they had been shut out for 27 minutes. They really hadn't done anything on offense to that point. They were driving finally, and he rolled out there, and he had to slide short of the first down because Queen was coming. But he went to the ground. Queen crushed him, and he could have laid off. There was no flag. The Bills bench went nuts. There was pushing, shoving, and several guys admitted that play woke our asses up. And they ended up settling for a field goal there, which the end of that drive was really a mess for the Bills. I hate the way they handled the end of the drive, and it was too bad they didn't get to 7. But they went into halftime, Adam, I think feeling better about themselves, and they were motivated after what Queen did to Allen, and they come out in the third quarter, and boom, the game changed in the first 2 minutes of third quarter irrevocably. I mean, it was over once the Bosa strip sack and Benford touchdown, and then the Benford pick, and they go right down and scored again. That was it, man. The Steelers were so bad today on offense, even at 16-7. It felt like it was pretty much over. And then the Bills tacked on another touchdown, I think maybe on their next possession. And then it was really over at that point. But yeah, the Allen cheap shot is a play you look back on, and that kind of got the Bills going. And they needed something to get them going at that point in the game.
I almost texted you in the first half. I almost said, if they lose this game, it'll be because they self-destruct. Of course, the turnovers suggested that. They of course corrected it. But the comment was mainly referencing, talk about Aaron Rodgers looking like a shell of his former self. Right? I know he's back off an injury, but absolutely just brutal. And you talk about an offense with limitations in the passing game and a lack of explosiveness. My goodness. So, but you know what? Credit the Bills defensively here. That sequence at the start of the second half
they're ugly.
Yeah, the sequence at the start of the second half with the Bosa strip sack and the recovery for the touchdown by Benford and then his INT as well. Talk about putting a stranglehold on the game. It was, for all intents and purposes, it was Buffalo's game right then and there. So again, credit the defense.
Yeah, I mean, look, Rodgers is a shell of himself. He's going to be 42 years old next week. He looks 42. I mean, and you expect that. I mean, you can't play at that age in the NFL. Tom Brady did, right? Tom Brady is like the only guy who could still be efficient at that age in the history of pro football. Rodgers is not there. Rodgers is done. I mean, he should retire at the end of this season. The Bills, he was helpless against the Bills. He came into the game, Adam. I think we talked about it on the preview show. He had the lowest completion air yards of any quarterback in the NFL. 3.8 average yards per completion, balls in the air. I can't remember more than 3 passes that were more than 5 yards down the field today. One with DK Metcalf the whole game. He was never not on DK Metcalf when they were both on the field at the same time. Metcalf had 3 catches for 32 yards. That's an explosive, physically gifted player, and Benford took him right out of the game. Again, Rodgers doesn't really have much. He doesn't have much want to stand in the pocket and wait for a guy to get open. He wants to get rid of the ball as quick as he can, and Metcalf wasn't open with Benford covering him, and he couldn't go there. So it was Christian Benford had a great game. The scoop and score, the interception, and just locking down Metcalf all night. Great game. Great game for him. And I'll tell you what, Adam, this defense, how about this defense in the last 6 quarters now? After the first half of that debacle in Houston, this defense has played really, really good football. So that's a good sign, because there was a point there in the middle of the season here where we were really worried about this defense. And they've got some guys that have come around and are starting to play much better. I think one of the best players in the field was Shaq Thompson today. He stepped in for Terrell Bernard, and we've talked about Bernard has really not had a very good season. I know injuries have been a part of it, but he hasn't been very good, really going back to last year. Shaq Thompson has come in and really solidified their linebacker play, and that's a big thing for the Bills moving forward, because their middle line of defense had been pretty bad all year.
Yeah, Thompson's probably been their best linebacker, right? I think so. Really?
Yeah. I think
all right, Jessica with a comment.
Milano has played a little bit better now the last couple games.
All right, Jessica with a comment here, and this is important. Bosa did a good job forcing the fumble, but now the hamstring injury. They need him for the December playoff push. Now, they all knew the risk-reward on Bosa. The fact they were able to get him for on the 1-year deal for the price they did was his injury history, obviously. And now you got a hamstring. Was there any? Probably not. I didn't hear all of McDermott afterwards. Did he have anything to say on those are nagging injuries? I mean, there's a chance he could miss some time, right? Based on that, that's typically the case. We don't know the degree of it, but did you get any read on that whatsoever in the locker room afterwards?
No, we're not gonna. He doesn't really say anything about injuries after the game, unless it's a serious one. But we'll know more tomorrow, and we'll know more on Wednesday, because even tomorrow he'll gloss over it and he'll say, "Well, we'll let you know Wednesday." So, I hope it's nothing too serious with him. He hasn't been great. He's been pretty good though, right? I mean, he's forced 5 fumbles. That's the most that the Bills have ever had. And there's been like 5 different guys that have done it now. So he's made some nice plays for them. And it was nice that he got the sack at him, because he's been getting pressure a lot this year, but he hasn't been able to finish many of them off. So it was good that he finished that one off today. And it also turned into a strip sack for a touchdown. So that was a big play by him.
Yeah, he's been good. He's been good for them. He's been worth it so far. The signing, I mean, he's been,
I think they would have wanted a little bit more bang for the buck, I think, especially in the sack department. But it's not always about sacks. So, I understand that. But we've talked about their pass rush. Their pass rush just has not been dynamic enough. Greg Rousseau continues to just kind of mosey along and not really make any game-changing plays. Same thing today. So that's why it was nice to see Bosa come through in that situation, but they need more of it. And now hopefully he's not going to be out, because then what do they do? Where are they going? AJ Epinesa and Russo? I mean, come on, TJ Sanders? That's not going to be good enough. So, yeah, another another injury worry that they have to be concerned with this week.
By the way, not to nitpick, but Epiness is unsportsmanlike, boneheaded beyond. That was one of the stupidest things I've seen him do.
I mean, they had been doing nothing on offense. Now they were going to be, I think it was, would it have been a 3rd and 10, I think? And they gave him 15 yards in the first. It was just a dumb play. Sometimes I don't understand what makes these guys do these things, but yeah, that was a bad one. Didn't end up hurting them, but it was a stupid play.
There was just a lot of that crap going on in the game that the Bills fed off. So it served a purpose. You know, the Hayward Allen stuff was another one too, right? Where after
those guys were going at it, man. I don't know what was going on there.
Hayward said that Allen had kneed him in the stomach, I think.
Oh, and really?
That he was pissed off. I saw on social media his post game that he was pissed off because, you know, quarterbacks get the protection and he doesn't. So there was just a lot of it and the frustration. And look, I mean, the Steelers had reason to be frustrated in that game, the way it played out. So now, Bills remain 7th in the AFC playoff race, 8-4, behind the Colts and Chargers. Houston, red hot, by the way, right behind them. And they, of course, have the head-to-head. So we'll see how that plays out. And now Cincinnati coming to town with Joe Burrow back in there. And to the point you made earlier, I said we'd mention this, 8 straight wins for the Bengals now with Joe Burrow as their starting quarterback. Obviously dating back to last season. But it more than illustrates the point. They're a completely different team and a different offense with him in there.
They're a dangerous team, man. They're 4-8. They're only 2 games out in that division now. The Ravens and Steelers are 6-6. The Bengals have a legit chance to win that division because they're going to be tough to beat down this. I think they have to play. I think they've already played Pittsburgh twice. Maybe they have to play Baltimore twice.
Baltimore twice.
No, they just played them on Thanksgiving. They have to play. They've already played Baltimore twice.
Let me look at
whatever it is. They've got a chance to win the division.
The Steelers have to play Baltimore.
They're going to be a tough team to beat for the Bills. They're going to come in there. Is that what it's? Okay, I knew it was something like that. There was one division matchup that hadn't even been played yet. But the Bengals are dangerous. They are. They're and what's crazy is their defense is starting to play a little bit better. So you get Burrow. They're probably going to have Higgins back for that game with Chase. That's going to be a tough day for the Bills. They better play well that game.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, so yeah, the Steelers have the Ravens next week, and then they close against the Ravens. And the Bengals, give me 1 second here, and I'll give you, since we want to see how that race is going to play out. The Bengals, I have their schedule up now. The Bengals have the Ravens once. It's after the Buffalo game, followed by they're at Miami, and then host the Cardinals and the Browns. So your point is well taken, obviously. I mean, this is a very difficult matchup for the Bills in an extremely tight race. All right, let's do a couple of more comments here before we wrap it up. From Alma Gomez, are you optimistic that the passing game will improve to be relevant in the playoffs with a return of Kincaid and Palmer? Shakir has not been as reliable and either not making tough catches anymore. What's your take on the potential, on how this might shape up? So, I mean, Kincaid is obviously a difference maker for them.
Yeah, they need to get him back. So hopefully, they were able to survive. Maybe that's part of the reason, Adam, why they didn't bother trying to push him today, because they knew they weren't going to be throwing the ball. They were going to try to run it all day. So, you get, Knox and Hawes are the better blocking tight ends. So I'm hoping that's what it is, and that he'll be good to go. This week he practiced limited last week. We'll see. It's a hamstring. They're tricky. But you're right. They need him. He's an important guy. He's the way they're constructed right now. He basically is their best down the field threat of the team at this point. Right? He's the only guy that Allen confidently throws the ball down the field to. So yeah, they got to get him back out there quick.
All right, Sal. We appreciate it. Thanks very much, and thanks to all of you for tuning in here on Believe in Bills Live post game here on YouTube. 26-7. Bills with an impressive, dominant, smash mouth, workmanlike win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for Sal Maiorana, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I'm Adam Benigni, WGRZ-TV. Sports Talk Live Buffalo every Monday night. 7 o'clock, we'll be on with John Scott and Vic Carucci tomorrow night, 7 at Channel 2 in Buffalo. Thanks for being with us here on Believe in Bills, presented by FanDuel.